This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. U.S. crude oil inventories fell last week as oil refiners increased run rates and exports surged, while crude production reached its highest since the coronavirus pandemic decimated fuel consumption, Energy Information Administration data showed on Wednesday. Crude inventories fell by 5.96 million barrels in the week to August 11 to 439.7 million barrels, compared with analysts' expectations in a Reuters poll for a 2.3 million barrel drop. Refinery crude runs rose by 167,000 barrels per day last week to 16.75 million barrels of oil per day, their highest since January 2020, AIA data showed. Refinery utilization rates rose by 0.9 percentage point to 94.7% of total capacity.
China made a rare draw on crude oil inventories in July as imports softened and refinery processing remained elevated to meet rising domestic demand and a surge in refined fuel exports. Refiners used about 510,000 barrels per day, BPD, from stockpiles in July, the first time in 33 months that they had dipped into storages. China doesn't disclose the volumes of crude flowing into or out of strategic and commercial stockpiles, but an estimate can be made by deducting the amount of crude processed from the total of crude available from imports and domestic output.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The European Union said on Thursday it had launched an investigation into whether Indonesia was circumventing EU duties on imports of biodiesel originating in the country by going through China and Britain. The EU is Indonesia's third-largest destination for palm oil products and an important market for its biodiesel, which is made from palm oil, while Indonesia is the world's biggest palm oil producer. The EU's probe followed an initial request from the European Biodiesel Board.
India's annual coal emissions are on track to scale new highs in 2023, after the power sector discharged record volumes of carbon dioxide in the first half and lifted imports of low-quality and high-polluting coal on world markets. India's power producers discharged over 500 million tons of CO2 from burning coal over the first half of 2023, a 4% rise over the same period in 2022 when a new annual record for coal power emissions was set, data from think tank Ember shows. Indian utilities use a mix of low-grade domestic coal plus imports to feed power stations, and coal shipments into the second-largest coal consumer can provide a leading indicator of potential emissions from key coastal power plants, which are among the largest in the country.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
Net long positions of copper on the London Metals Exchange, LME, are at a 6-month high, partly fueled by low Chinese copper inventories data, but industry sources say this signal, often as seen as bullish, isn't reflecting the reality on the ground. China is the world's top copper consumer, and combined inventory in the Shanghai Futures Exchange and Chinese bonded warehouses were 110,314 metric tons on August 11, down 53% year-on-year and equivalent to just under 3 days of consumption. While futures prices in London and Shanghai have fallen to multi-week lows, some investors have been building long positions, based on LME data, in anticipation that prices will turn higher in coming months.
The U.S. Commerce Department on Thursday said it will set preliminary anti-dumping duties on tin-plated steel from Canada, Germany and China, in a move to shield domestic steelmakers that will prompt warnings of higher prices for cans made from the steel and the foods, paint and other products they contain. The department said it will propose preliminary anti-dumping duties of 122.5% on tin mill steel imported from China, 7.02% on imports from Germany and 5.29% on imports from Canada. A formal Federal Register notice is expected later on Thursday. No duties will be imposed on the steel used in cans for food, paint, aerosol products and other containers imported from Britain, the Netherlands, South Korea, Taiwan and Turkey, Commerce added. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. India is in talks with Russia to import wheat at a discount to surging global prices in a rare move to boost supplies and curb food inflation ahead of state and national elections next year, according to 4 sources. The imports would allow New Delhi to intervene more effectively in the market to drive down wheat prices that stoked inflation to a 15-month high in July. The government is exploring the possibility of imports through private trade and government-to-government deals. The decision will be made cautiously, one of the sources told Reuters, when asked about wheat imports from Russia.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.